to Jmath.
Hi grade 10s, here's a little revision test for chapter 1 and 2. Check the description below and download this test. Please try it first and then let's go through the memo together. Don't just watch this and haven't tried these sums, then it won't help you as much. So please try them first, struggle through it, check your book, check your notes, everything, and then only check how we answer these questions, please. Okay. Question 1, solve for x. Draw the following on a number line. And whenever you see it in this notation, so this notation is called interval notation, and this one is called set builder. So if you see something in interval notation, that means you are only going to draw the two numbers that they give you. So I'm only going to put -4 and then 2. Now I just need to check, is it an open bracket or a closed bracket, which means it's going to be an open circle and a closed dot. Okay, and then you just connect them. Remember, interval notation is all about real numbers, so I don't need to make dots in between because there are too many individual values, so I just draw a line through all of them. Okay, interval notation. Let's just check what you're going to get marks for. You're going to get a mark for the open circle on -4 and the closed dot on 2, and a line connecting them. So in this case, if you have the two circles but you don't have the line, they will actually subtract marks for you. So please make sure it is perfect. Question 1.1.2. So now it is set builder notation, and they clearly state that it is integers. With the previous one, if it's interval notation, it's always real. You do not need to guess or worry what it is. It's always real. Now, if it is integers, I need to make sure that I mark every single number, and then I just need to make dots on the correct one. So I'm actually going to start at -4 and then fill it in till I pass 1. Now I need to check what is included and excluded. Now with the previous one, if it's excluded, I make an open circle. That's with real numbers. But with integers, you are literally just going to make dots on all the correct values. So let's read this. X lies between -3 and 1, but -3 is not included. So that means I'm going to make a dot at -2, -1, 0, and then on 1 because 1 is included. And that is my answer. There's no arrows, there's no lines. I only make those 4 dots. And you will get marks if 2 of them are correct and the other 2 are correct. Okay, if you make arrows or anything else, you will lose a mark because then your teacher will think you don't know what's going on. Question 1.2, write the following in interval notation. Now, whenever you see this, please remember your x is an element of, and now I need to choose block bracket or round bracket. This line at the bottom tells me it's going to be a block bracket. I'm going to put -2 there, and then the sum actually says x is greater than or equal to -2. They don't tell me where I'm stopping, so I'm going towards infinity. Remember, infinity is always a round bracket. Can never be block. Okay, there's a whole discussion on why, but you just need to know infinity is always round because it's not an actual number, it's a concept, and I can't include a concept in mathematics because it's a concept. I just say it edges towards infinity, which is not included. The next question, so write this in interval notation. X lies between 1 and 6, but 6 is included, so I'm going to say x element of not included is a round bracket, so 1, and then 6 is a block bracket. That's it. I will get my marks for, in this case, the 1 and the round bracket counts as 1, and then the 6 and the block bracket counts as another mark. So even if you have the numbers correct but the brackets wrong, you might get 0 for this if it's not the correct bracket with the correct number. Okay, 1.3, between which two consecutive integers does the square root of 30 lie? Now remember, there's many ways to do this. The best way would be to just know your square numbers. So 1 squared, 2 squared, 3 squared, 4 squared, 5 squared, and 6 squared. That's the best way. If you really have to, you can just type this on your calculator. But let me show you how to get full marks for this question. Square root of 30 will lie between these two numbers. And therefore, I can say it is between square root of 25, and I'm looking for square root 30, and then square root 36. So the actual answer to this question is 5 and 6. Now watch out, you will get 1 mark for writing this whole step correct, and then only 1 mark for the answer. Don't just type it in a calculator and only write the bottom answer, then you will not get full marks. Question 2, simplify the following expressions. So now I am just going to FOIL. So I'm going to take the -4x, multiply it by those two, and then the 5 and multiply it by those two. So this is a FOIL or a distribution or whatever you want to call it, as long as you multiply everything with everything. So let's write the answer. -4 times 2 gives me -8x squared. -4 times -3 gives me plus 12x. I'm moving over to the 5. 5 times 2 gives me plus 10x, just 10x. And then 5 times -3 gives me 15. Now, I'll always be able to plus the middle terms, so I just need to simplify. Minus 8x squared plus 22x minus 15. Where will I get my marks? For actually foiling all of this out and then for getting the correct trinomial. So once again, I'm not getting a mark for each term, then the sum will count like 6 marks. So make sure you are accurate with these. 2.2. So this is again, just like FOIL, it's now just a bit extra. I'm going to take each of the 3 terms in the first bracket and multiply it by both in the second bracket. So let's see how that would look. So 3y squared times y is 3y cubed. 3y squared times minus 2x gives me minus 6xy squared. Try to write it alphabetically. It's just easier to mark. Okay, then the 6xy, I'm going to multiply with both. That will give me plus 6xy squared. The 6xy, I'm multiplying by the 2x, so that will give me minus 12x squared y. Lastly, we're going to take the plus 4 and multiply with both. So that will give me plus 4x squared y squared, and then minus 8x cubed y. Okay, now I need to check very closely. Do I maybe have like terms? And if I check correctly, I'm only spotting one pair of like terms. So 3y cubed. And then these next two actually cancel out. They have 1x and 2 y's, and they actually cancel out. The rest, I don't see any partners. So I'm just going to write them down, and then that would be my final answer. Then the question is still saying simplify, so I need to multiply into each of these brackets, then look for like terms and simplify a bit more. So the first one, this is just going to be 4a4 minus 6a cubed. Then minus 4a squared b cubed, and then plus 5a b cubed. So you'll notice I'm always trying to write in alphabetical order. Just makes it so much easier to mark and find couples. So with the next one, a squared b squared minus ab squared. So now I'm looking for like terms, and if I scan through this quickly, there's actually no like terms. So that would be the answer, and your mark allocation would just be if all of them are correct, you will get a mark. So it's maybe for those two, and then those two. So sometimes mark allocations is not very defined if it's only one line, then they're just looking for very specific things. But as long as everything is correct, you will get your full marks. Factorize the following. Okay, guys, so please remember, if it says simplify, I'm not allowed to have any brackets in my answer. If it says factorize, I must have brackets in my answer. So they are actually opposites of each other. So don't get confused. Simplify starts with brackets, ends with none. Factorize, everything needs to be in a bracket by the end. Okay, so remember all the types of factorization. So I get highest common factor. That's always my first step. Check for a highest common factor. Then I'm going to count how many terms. If there are 2 terms, then it's difference of squares, or difference of cubes and sum of cubes. If there are 3 terms, it's always a trinomial, and then if there are 4 or more, it will be grouping. Okay, guys, study that list. Write it for yourself that you don't get stuck in an exam when you get factorization sums. So if I start with step 1, check if there's a highest common factor. There is, so 4 is my highest common factor. If I take it out, I have x squared minus 4. Now, if I check in the bracket, there's 2 terms, and this is difference of squares. So 4x minus 2x plus 2. That is it. My marks I get for taking out the 4 and then for spotting the difference of squares. Only 2 marks, even though it was a bit of thinking required. With the next one, again, check if there's a highest common factor. There is, so I'm going to take out 8, and I'm left with x cubed minus 8. Now I need to check how many terms are there in the bracket. There's 2, so I immediately go for difference of squares, but I'm hitting a little bit of a problem. There's a cube, and I can't square root a cube number. So what I'm going to do is I am going to consider difference of cubes. So that's the one with a small bracket and then a bigger bracket. Okay, so for the first bracket, I'm going to cube root each of these. So just use your calculator if you're uncertain. Cube root both of them. Now for the bigger bracket, I'm going to square the first one. So guys, if I'm talking about the first one, it's this x. And if I'm talking about the second one, it is this y. Okay, so square the first one. Multiply them, but change the sign. So plus 2x, and then always a plus, and square the last one. That is the answer to this question, and I'll get marks for taking out the 8, spotting the difference of cubes, and then actually getting it correct. So I think you'll get 2 marks for the difference of cubes, 1 for each bracket. Question 3.2. So don't get a fright. You are going to get algebraic fractions, and sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's complicated, but you just follow the steps. So step 1. Factorize each denominator. So I can look at the first one, and that looks a lot like a trinomial. Okay, guys, so you can do any method that you like. So let's just solve these ones. So you can use the formula if your school allows it. You can then just use the cross multiply butterfly method. Whatever you do to solve an advanced grade 10 trinomial, go for it. So in this case, this would be a 2x. That would just be an x. And now I need to place the 3 and the 1. Now I want to subtract to get a 5. So I'm actually going to put the 3 there and then the 1 there. So if I look if this is correct, this would give me minus 6x. And this middle one gives me plus 1x. Now that, if I subtract, gives me the minus 5. So I know I'm correct. With the next one, I'm just going to take out x as the common factor. So x minus 3. And now I can write LCD and everything I need. So the LCD will be one of each of these brackets. Please don't forget the first x. Okay, so that x is very important. I can't ignore it. So it's x minus 3, and then 2x plus 1. Now, I need to check which part of the LCD is missing in each term. Guys, I'm just going to make a massive fraction with the LCD at the bottom. So x minus 3, and then 2x plus 1. Now, there was a 2, and there was a 1. Now, I need to write at the top the part of the LCD that was missing when I factorized. So in the first term, I could see both brackets, but I don't see the single x. So I'm going to put the x there. Now, the plus 1, let me just get my spacing correct. It is actually missing the 2x plus 1 bracket. So I'm just going to put that there, 2x plus 1, and then I can just complete this sum. So I don't want to FOIL out the bottom again, but I need to, at the top, make sure that all the like terms are added and it is as simple as possible. So 2x plus 2x plus 1, and then at the bottom, like I said, I'm just keeping it that way. So x minus 3, and then 2x plus 1. Now my final answer will then just be 4x plus 1, and then the bottom just stays like that. Okay, so 3 marks. That's a bit small for this question. I think a more realistic one would be 4 or 5 marks. So you'll definitely get a mark for factorizing the denominators. Then for the step where you multiply with the LCD, you'll also get a mark. And then just for your simplification. Like I say, in an actual test, I think this would be rather 4 or 5 marks. Question 4. Okay, solve for x. Now, remember, we get simplify, we get factorize, and then we get solve for x. So in this case, you need to check each individual sum and do what is necessary. Most of the time, if there's an x squared, you will have to factorize so that you can make each bracket equal to 0. If there isn't a square, then you're just going to get all the x's on the one side and the numbers on the other side. So let's try this first one. I see a x squared and a normal x. So that means I'm going to have to factorize. I want everything on one side, so then I can see it's a trinomial. Okay, I'm going to make my 2 brackets, and then I'm going to put x times x. And now remember, I now need to check what times what gives me 12. So 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. If I subtract them, I look at the last term, if I subtract them, then I need a 1. So there immediately I can see it must be 4 minus 3. So just a little cheat code. If you put the first sign in the first bracket, then you can always put the biggest number in the first one and the smaller number in the second one. Now I need to figure out what is the sign for the last bracket. So remember, the first bracket is always the same sign as the first one in your trinomial. And then the second bracket, you will check if it is a minus there, then it means the signs needs to be different. If it was a plus, then both signs will be the same and both would be a negative. So in this case, that would just be a plus. Now it is equal to 0, so I can just say x minus 4 equals 0, or x plus 3 equals 0. My final answer to this question would be x can be equal to 4, or x can be equal to negative 3. Okay, where do I get my marks? I get my marks for the 2 brackets and then the 2 final answers. So they don't care which method you use. As long as your brackets are correct, you are going to get your full marks. Now with the next sum, a double inequality. So what I'm going to do there is I want x alone in the middle. So if I need to move the 5 away, I'm going to move it to both sides. Okay, guys, so this 2, let me just use colors to make it easier for you. So this plus 5, I'm going to subtract on this side and on this side. So that would give me minus 3x, and then this would just give me 12. Now I need to get rid of the minus 3. So I'm actually going to divide everything by minus 3. And then for those of you who are still awake with inequalities, remember, if I divide by a minus, I must flip all the signs. So now this middle would now just be x. I'm flipping this sign. I'm flipping this sign. That would be a 1, and that would be a minus 4. Okay, so that is the answer. Whoops, I made a mistake. Don't put extra lines. There isn't extra lines. Okay, so please focus, guys. You can see I do math every single day, and I already made a mistake. So please focus here. Now, that is the final answer. but it is not neat. Always try and make it as neat as possible. What I mean with that is put the smallest number on the left. So the -4 was included, so the included sign goes with it, and then the 1 was not included. So that is my final answer. If you don't write the final one, you would still get full marks, but your teacher would think a lot more of you and know that you studied if you write the final step. So please do that. Okay, where do I get marks? I get marks for moving the 5 correctly, then for dividing by -3, but because it's only 3 marks, they're actually going to give a mark for your final answer, or sorry, I'm lying, for one of these 2 answers, and then for knowing to flip the signs. Okay, so the divided by 3 and the flipping the signs would be the same mark. Okay, please practice a few of those in your textbook if it is uncertain. Solve for x and y simultaneously. Now, I'm never going to tell you or force you to do elimination or substitution method, but not all of you are going to write my exam. So please check what your teacher and your exam says, and then make sure you know both methods. Okay, but some teachers tell their kids, look, I'm always going to give you freedom to choose. And most of the time in grade 12, they will not prescribe which method. You can choose the one that works for you. In this specific case, I can see this y is going to be the easiest to get alone. So I'm going to go for substitution method. But like I said, you are more than welcome to use elimination. Okay, if I use substitution, I am going to call this equation A. You can call it equation 1 if you like, but I'm just going to go for an A. This original one would be B, but I am going to change it a little bit so that y is alone. So I'm going to say this is 3x minus 1 is equal to y, and that I'm actually going to call equation C. Now I'm going to sub C into A. Now remember, guys, C comes from B. It's like its child. So you can't put it back into B. That would just be awkward. So please put it back into A. Okay? So if it comes from B, it can't go back to B. It must go to the other equation. If you do it wrong, you'll just get 0 is equal to 0, and then you would freak out, and your test is not going to go well. So if you study this, don't make that mistake. So I'm going to write 2x plus 6. I'm going to leave a little space equals 14. Now I'm going to sub in 3x minus 1 into the place of y. If I now solve this question, so 2x plus 18x minus 6 is equal to 14. You will notice earlier I said if there's x squareds and x's, I'm going to get everything on one side. This is not one of those cases. So I am going to get the x's on the left. Okay, so 2 plus 18 gives me 20. And I'm going to get the numbers on the right. So 14 plus 6 gives me 20. That tells me x is equal to 1. Now I need to write what I'm going to do next so my teacher knows. So I'm just going to say sub x into C. Okay, you could sub it into any one of the 3 that you have, but C is the easiest because y is already alone. So I can just say 3 times 1 minus 1 is equal to y, and I already know. I'm in grade 10, so I know 3 minus 1 is 2, hopefully. There we go. That was simultaneous equations. Where will I get marks? I'll get marks for either doing the elimination or the substitution. So if you choose substitution, you'll get a mark there for getting a third equation. Then for subbing it in, getting x, and then getting y. If you did elimination, you'll get a mark for saying that you're going to subtract the 2 equations, and then for getting x, getting y, and then they'll give you another mark if your subtraction answer was correct or something like that. Question 5. So this is the one where I have a lot of variables, and I must get a specific one alone. So in this question, they want m alone. So just follow your algebra steps. I want m alone, so I need to move the n and the 2 to the other side. So my step 1 is going to be multiply by n on both sides. So Pn equals 2m squared. Now I'm going to divide by 2, and it's just going to be Pn over 2, but this is still m squared. I want m alone, so I'm going to square root Pn over 2. Please remember, if you put your own square root, you must say plus minus. Otherwise, you will lose the marks. There we go. That is the answer if m is alone. Where do I get marks? I'll get a mark for just moving each one over. So by moving the n, moving the 2, and then plus minus square root. The final question in this practice test. Okay, so now we did one of these already. Okay, but that was an expression. And in an expression, there's no equal sign, so the denominator stays there. Now it is an equation. So now the denominator can go away. But my steps still stay the same, except for that one little piece. I am going to factorize this first trinomial. So then I can see my LCD afterwards. So this is going to be an x and an x. And now the factors of 12. So 1 times 12, if I add them, it's not 8. But 6 times 2, if I add them, it's 8. So I'm going to put a plus and a plus. Guys, a little tip. With these sums, you're never going to have 4 brackets in your LCD. Well, I can't say never, but almost never. So this x plus 6 and x plus 2 will most of the time repeat in your trinomials. If you get stuck, please consider the other brackets. Maybe it's one of them or both of them. The rest just stays the same for now. And now I can tell them what is my LCD. Now, if I look at this, I have two unique brackets. So my LCD will be x plus 6, x plus 2. Now, because it says solve for x, I must remember my restriction. So my restriction says x cannot be minus 6 and x cannot be minus 2. So just look at the LCD and choose their inverse numbers. Okay. Now I can multiply each term by the LCD and see what remains. Okay, so if I multiply the first term by the LCD, both of the brackets will cancel out. So that's actually just a 12. With the next one, the x plus 2 is there, so that's going to cancel out, and the x plus 6 is going to remain. The next one, the x minus 6 is there, so I need to multiply it with the part of the LCD that it does not have, so that will be x plus 2. Okay, guys, if I explain it in a different way, if I multiply everything by the LCD separately, so this would be multiplied by both, but this bracket cancels this one cancels this one, and that's why the first term is only a 12. So if you get stuck, multiply by the full LCD and see what cancels out. Okay, so I'll do that with a 10 and with a minus 4, and that's how I get to this last step. Now, I am just going to multiply in and add like terms. So minus 10x minus 60 minus 4x minus 8 is equal to 0. Get the x's on one side. Both of them are negative, so I'm going to move them to the other side, and that will give me 14x. And then the other one, big numbers. And that is actually minus 56, and that is a multiple of 14. So if I divide, I am going to get minus 4. Now, I just need to check my restrictions, and luckily it's not one of them. So I am safe. That is the answer. If it was one of the restrictions, just draw a cannot be equal to, sign through it, and then choose the other option, because sometimes it will be a trinomial that's left. Okay, let's see where I would get my 5 marks. I'll definitely get my 1 mark for factorizing, then for getting the LCD, then for multiplying these ones correctly, okay, then for getting the simplified version and getting the final answer. So if there was a restriction and it was one of my answers, my last mark would actually be for choosing the correct value or for canceling the other value. Okay, so please don't forget your restrictions. It's easy marks to get, but it's also easy to lose and you won't even notice it. Okay, that was a test on chapter 1 and 2. If there were anything that you are not comfortable with, please go and try the sums in your textbook a little bit, check the examples, ask your teacher, and I think it can go really well in your test. Please just put in the hours before the test, not the evening before, the week before. Okay, guys, good luck with your tests. I hope it goes really well.
If this video helped you, please like and subscribe.
Jmath.